Failure. We all hate it, right? But what if I told you that failure isn't the enemy you've been taught to fear? What if it's actually the secret weapon you've been overlooking, just waiting to be harnessed? In this video, we're flipping the script on how we think about failure, the Stoic way. Now, you might be thinking, isn't failure just, well, failure? A setback? A loss? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share isn't your typical motivational fluff. We're going deep, beyond the cliches, and into a philosophy that's been shaping resilient, unstoppable minds for centuries. Stoicism isn't about avoiding failure, it's about using it as fuel to rise stronger, smarter, and more grounded than ever before. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll look at failure in a whole new light, and you'll have the tools to turn every setback into a setup for your comeback. So, if you're ready to stop letting failure define you and start making it work for you, hit that play button and let's dive in. Number 1. The Embrace Your Worst Nightmare method. You know that feeling when you try something new and deep down you're already bracing for failure. You can almost hear the little voice whispering, "You're going to mess this up, just wait." Now, what if I told you that's exactly what you need to embrace, not avoid? Yes, trust me on this one. Embrace your worst nightmare. I know it sounds counterintuitive. Why would anyone willingly step into the fire of failure? But here's the thing, it's the only way to truly break free from the fear that holds you back. You've been there, right? You're about to try something big, a new project, or even a tough conversation, and that old familiar feeling creeps up. The fear of not being good enough, the fear of failing. What if it all goes wrong? You start second-guessing, overthinking, and before you know it, the opportunity passes and you're left wondering what could have been. The problem is, we're conditioned to avoid failure at all costs. It's in our culture. But here's the catch. Failure doesn't need to be the enemy. In fact, it's often the greatest teacher you'll ever meet. So, let's break it down. The Embrace Your Worst Nightmare method isn't about running headlong into danger for the sake of it. No, it's about getting comfortable with the idea of failure. It's about choosing to expose yourself to the thing you fear most. Because here's the wild part. When you face it head-on, it loses its grip on you. You stop worrying about failing because you've already decided it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's probably the best thing that could happen. I can tell you, it works. I remember this one time when I had to give a speech at a huge company meeting. I had never spoken in front of so many people, and honestly, I was terrified. My heart raced, my palms were sweating, and all I could think was, what if I mess up? But then I realized something. I was already living in my worst-case scenario. The fear was already there. So I thought, what if I really embraced this? I stepped up there, and instead of trying to avoid the inevitable nerves, I leaned into them. I acknowledged my fear, spoke about it openly, and told the room I was nervous. Guess what happened? I connected with them on a completely different level. They weren't just listening to a speech. They were experiencing my vulnerability with me. And guess what? It wasn't a disaster. It was the most real, powerful presentation I've ever given. This method isn't just about facing your fears for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming your power over them. It's about saying, I'm not afraid to fail, because failure isn't going to break me, it's going to teach me. When you embrace your worst nightmare, you stop shrinking back in fear. You stop playing small. You take ownership of your emotions and your outcomes. You start to realize that failing doesn't define you. How you handle failure does. Think about it. When was the last time you really allowed yourself to fail? Not just in a tiny way, but in a big way. It's time to embrace that discomfort, that fear, and let it fuel you. You're not just going to survive failure, you're going to thrive because of it. Remember, your worst nightmare isn't the worst thing that could happen. What's worse is letting fear keep you from stepping into your own power. So the next time you feel that wave of anxiety before trying something new, stop and ask yourself, what if this is exactly what I need? What if failing is the very thing that will move you forward? By embracing your worst nightmare, you're not just surviving, you're conquering. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are waiting on the other side. Number 2, the no safety net principle. What if I told you that the best way to achieve success is to get rid of your safety net? Yes, you heard me right. The thing we're all told to rely on in life, the backup plan, the just in case. What if that's actually the very thing keeping you stuck? Now, I know this sounds like one of those throw caution to the wind kind of philosophies, but hear me out. What if you really committed to something without any room for escape? The results might just blow your mind. You've been there, haven't you? You've got a great idea, a dream, something that excites you, but then doubt sneaks in. What if it doesn't work? You start building your safety net, a second option, a backup plan, or maybe even a plan C. We all do it. It feels logical, like you're being responsible, right? But here's the catch. When you create a backup plan, you're subconsciously telling yourself that you don't believe in your primary plan. You're already preparing for failure. And here's the twist. By giving yourself that safety net, you're actually robbing yourself of the full commitment needed to succeed. The no safety net principle isn't about being reckless. It's about total commitment. It's about choosing one path and fully embracing it without the escape routes. You want to do something? Go all in. This doesn't mean you can't be prepared or strategic, but it does mean that you stop creating safety nets that allow you to back out before you've even really tried. When you make the decision to commit fully, you tap into an energy and focus that wouldn't exist if you were hedging your bets. Your efforts become sharper, your mindset becomes stronger, and the fear of failure, it starts to shrink. I'll tell you exactly how this played out in my own life. A while back, I was offered a job that seemed like a dream. On the surface, it was perfect, but there was one catch. It would require me to move across the country, leaving everything behind. Now, of course, I could have said yes and kept my backup plan in case things went south. I could always come back, right? But something clicked. I decided that I wasn't going to leave myself any options. I didn't want to have a safety net because I didn't want to leave myself the option of failure. It was all or nothing. I committed to making this new chapter work with zero escape routes. And you know what? The moment I committed fully, the opportunities and people I needed to succeed appeared. It's like the universe knew I was serious. I didn't have a choice but to make it work, and as a result I did. I grew, I adapted, and ultimately, I thrived. Here's the thing. When you remove the safety net, you reclaim your power. You stop playing small and start playing for real. You stop questioning whether it's possible and start showing up as if it already is. This isn't just about career moves or big decisions either. It's about life in general. Every time you hold back because you've left yourself an out, you're telling yourself that your dreams don't fully deserve your commitment. When you remove that safety net, you give yourself permission to fully experience everything, both the highs and the lows, and ultimately, you come out stronger on the other side. So next time you're faced with a big decision, don't ask yourself, what's my backup plan? Ask yourself instead, am I willing to commit fully to this, with no escape routes? And trust me, that shift in thinking will change everything. Your space, your peace, and your dignity aren't found in the backup plans. They're found in your full commitment to the one thing that matters most. It's time to stop living like there's always a way out. Embrace the no safety net principle and step into your life with the strength and focus that only full commitment can bring. Number 3, The Failure is Freedom Challenge. What if I told you that failure isn't the worst thing that could happen? In fact, what if it's the very thing that could set you free? Sounds a bit wild, doesn't it? But trust me on this. Failure, yes, the big, scary, I'm not sure I can handle this kind of failure, can actually be your ticket to freedom. Now you might be thinking, hold on, aren't we supposed to avoid failure at all costs? That's what we've been taught, right? But what if that mindset is exactly what's keeping you stuck? What if embracing failure is the most liberating thing you could ever do for yourself? We've all been there. You've tried something new, worked hard, put yourself out there, and then, boom, failure hits. The rejection, the mistakes, the "I didn't see that coming" moments. Ouch, it stings. It's hard not to take it personally. And in those moments, we often want to shrink back, avoid the discomfort, and never look at the failure again. But what if we stopped running from failure and instead started to see it as a tool that could actually unlock new opportunities and growth? What if failure was exactly what we needed to gain the freedom we're all after? The Failure is Freedom Challenge is about reframing the whole way we look at failure. Instead of viewing it as something to fear or avoid, you start to see it as a necessary step toward real growth. It's not the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new chapter. Let's think about it. When you fail, what happens? You're forced to reassess, learn, and adapt. Failure is the ultimate teacher, and when you fully embrace it, you start to realize that there's so much freedom in that process. You stop worrying about perfection or constant success, and you start focusing on the lessons and the resilience you're building. Let me give you an example from my own life. A while back, I launched a project that I thought would be a game changer. I was all in, excited, full of energy, ready to make it happen. And then it flopped, hard. Like the kind of failure that makes you want to crawl into a hole and pretend it never happened. At first, I was crushed. I'd put so much of myself into it, and it felt personal. But then something shifted. Instead of hiding from the failure, I leaned into it. I asked myself, what can I learn from this? And I realized that without that failure, I wouldn't have the wisdom to adjust, refine my approach, and eventually succeed in a way I never could have imagined before. That failure, it set me free from all the limiting beliefs I had about myself and my abilities. Here's the beauty of it. Failure frees you from the pressure to be perfect. It frees you from the chains of self-doubt and the fear of what others think. You stop being afraid of making mistakes because you know that each one is just a step toward getting better. It's only when we avoid failure that we keep ourselves locked in a cage. The only real failure is never trying, never pushing, never embracing the possibility that you might not get it right. But that's okay, because you're learning, growing, and evolving. So, here's the challenge for you. The next time you face a setback, don't back down. Don't over-explain yourself or hide behind excuses. Step up, embrace the freedom that comes with failing, and ask yourself, what's next? What's the lesson here? This is about reclaiming your peace, your growth, and your personal power. No more pretending that failure isn't part of the journey. It's all part of the freedom you've been craving. When you start to look at failure as freedom, something incredible happens. You stop limiting yourself. You stop living in fear of what might go wrong and start focusing on what's possible, regardless of the outcome. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are found in the process of growth, not in the perfection of success. So, go ahead. Embrace failure, because that's where the real freedom begins. Number 4, the reverse gratitude strategy. What if I told you that gratitude could sometimes be the very thing holding you back? Now I know what you're thinking. Gratitude? Isn't that something we're all supposed to practice more of? Aren't we told over and over that if we're grateful, life will somehow just work out? Well, yes, and also no. You see, there's a hidden side to gratitude that many of us overlook. What if the way we've been practicing gratitude is actually reinforcing patterns that keep us stuck? Stay with me here, because I'm about to introduce a strategy that'll flip your thinking on its head. You've probably been there, feeling like you should be grateful for your job, your relationships, or your life situation. But deep down, you're dissatisfied. You're stuck in a rut, and every time you try to change something, you remember to count your blessings instead. You know that feeling, right? It's like you're being told to feel thankful for what you have, even though you know in your heart that something's missing. You might even find yourself saying, "I should be happy. I have so much to be grateful for." But why does it still feel like something's off? Here's where the reverse gratitude strategy comes in. Instead of just being grateful for everything that is, what if you started to practice gratitude for everything that isn't yet? Yes, you read that right. The idea is to shift your mindset from being thankful for what you have to being thankful for what you don't have. Why? Because gratitude is a powerful tool, and it's only effective when it propels you forward, not keeps you complacent. By recognizing the things you still want, you're sending a message to yourself that you're not settling. You're acknowledging the gap, and in doing so, you open yourself up to the possibility of real change. It's like saying, "I'm grateful for what I've learned, and I'm excited for what's to come." Let me give you an example. A few months ago, I found myself in a situation where I felt stuck, working long hours at a job I didn't love, feeling like I was just going through the motions. Every day I would tell myself, "At least I have a job. I should be grateful for the security." But the more I said it, the more I felt suffocated by it. That's when I decided to try something different. I started practicing reverse gratitude. Instead of just being thankful for the job I didn't enjoy, I focused on being grateful for the opportunities I didn't have yet, like the freedom to do work I was truly passionate about, or the time to travel and explore new interests. It shifted my perspective in a way that made me realize I deserved more. That small shift in gratitude made me open to change, and within months, I found an opportunity that aligned with my passions. It wasn't about dismissing what I had, but about being excited for what was still out there waiting for me. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But won't focusing on what I don't have just make me feel worse? It's the opposite, actually. Reverse gratitude isn't about complaining or feeling ungrateful. It's about recognizing that life is an evolving journey. It's about giving yourself permission to dream bigger, without guilt. It's about saying, "I'm grateful for where I am and excited about where I'm going." The freedom comes when you realize that gratitude isn't about settling for less. It's about actively desiring more. So here's the empowering part. By practicing reverse gratitude, you're giving yourself permission to want more out of life. You stop holding on to situations that no longer serve you out of guilt or obligation. Instead, you create space for what's next. You stop over-explaining or justifying why things should be good enough. You take ownership of your desires and you actively pursue them with confidence. This isn't about dissatisfaction. It's about taking charge of your future. So go ahead, try the reverse gratitude strategy. Be thankful for what you don't have yet, and let it fuel you to create the life you truly want. The more you embrace the future you're aiming for, the more you'll realize that the life you're craving is within your reach, your space, your peace, and your dignity. They're waiting for you, just beyond the horizon. And when you actively practice gratitude for what's still to come, that horizon starts to look a lot closer. Number 5. The radical self-compassion. Protocol. What if I told you that being kinder to yourself could actually make you more successful? Wait, what? That's not how we're usually taught to approach things, right? We've all been fed the idea that success is about grit, pushing through, and never showing weakness. But here's the thing. What if the secret to true success lies in embracing your flaws with kindness instead of beating yourself up over them? Yeah, I know, it might sound a bit counterintuitive, but hear me out. You've been there, staring at a project that's not going as planned, or maybe you're dealing with a mistake that's eating away at you. You know the drill. I should have done better. Why can't I get this right? I'm not good enough. And in that moment, you might even tell yourself, well, that's just part of the process. I've got to get it together, push harder, and get back on track. But let's be real here. How often does that really work? How often does the tough love inner voice actually lead to improvement, instead of just leaving you feeling worse? Enter the radical self-compassion protocol. This is all about flipping the script on how you treat yourself when things go wrong. Instead of shaming yourself or berating your every move, the idea is to treat yourself like you would a friend, or better yet, like you would treat a child who's learning something new. You wouldn't tell that child, "You failed again, you idiot, get it together," right? So why do we think it's okay to talk to ourselves like that? Radical self-compassion is about showing up for yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you'd offer to someone you care about deeply. It's about letting go of that harsh inner critic and replacing it with a nurturing, "You're okay. You can do this. Let's try again. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds a little too soft. If I'm too kind to myself, won't I just let myself off the hook?" Trust me, this isn't about complacency. It's not about letting yourself get away with failure. It's about embracing your humanity. The reason it works so well is simple. When you treat yourself with kindness, your brain doesn't feel the need to spiral into shame or fear. Instead, it becomes motivated by a sense of safety and support. You're giving yourself the space to grow without fear of judgment. And that's a game changer. Let me give you a real-life example. A few months ago, I was struggling with a big project at work. I was facing roadblocks left and right. It was so frustrating. At one point, I made a huge mistake that felt like the end of the world. Normally, I would have gotten angry at myself, maybe even doubted my ability to do the job. But instead, I took a breath and applied the radical self-compassion protocol. I paused, and instead of criticizing myself, I said, "Okay, this is tough, but I'm not perfect, and that's okay. Let's learn from this and try again." And you know what happened. I immediately felt more energized, more capable, and ready to tackle the next challenge with a clearer mind. It didn't mean I let myself off the hook. It just meant I gave myself permission to learn without punishment. And it worked. I finished the project successfully, with a new sense of confidence and peace. The beauty of radical self-compassion is that it frees you from the burden of perfectionism. You stop over-explaining yourself or feeling like you need to constantly prove your worth. You stop trying to impress others because you've already accepted yourself, flaws and all. This approach doesn't just help you with productivity or success. It helps you feel whole, no matter what life throws your way. It's about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity in a world that often expects you to be hard on yourself. So here's the thing. Next time you mess up, instead of jumping to self-criticism, try this. Be gentle with yourself. Say to yourself, "I'm learning, I'm growing," and that's enough. You'll be amazed at how powerful this shift is. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are all tied up in how you treat yourself. When you practice radical self-compassion, you're not just becoming a better version of yourself. You're honoring the person you already are. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this video gave you some valuable insights and a fresh perspective on how to deal with failure the Stoic way. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Also, share this video with someone who might need that extra boost when facing setbacks. Let's spread the wisdom of Stoicism and turn failure into fuel for success together. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Have you ever faced failure in a way that helped you grow? Drop a comment below and let's get the conversation going. Remember, failure is not the end, it's the beginning of something greater. So keep moving forward, embrace the challenges, and know that you've got the strength to turn them into your greatest lessons. Until next time, stay strong, stay stoic, and keep pushing toward your best self.